Well, good evening, everybody. It's time for that episode every Monday night called Market Monday. Market Monday here on YouTube and Facebook from Tradeway. My name is Blair Nightingale, coming at you 6 p.m. Central every Monday night, going after the markets. This is an opportunity for you and me to spend some time together, connect. It is free for you, except that you are here spending your time. I know you're here spending your time, and we want to honor that. So we've got something special for you tonight, Market Monday. I want to teach you a little piece of our trading system here at Tradeway. I want to give you a preview on something that we do here around Tradeway. A little bit different than some other people do and teach, that is going to help you have better trades. Who doesn't want that? How can I add something to my daily trading that is going to result in better trades, right? Better trade setups. That's what it has the potential to do for us. So that's what we're going to go over today. Of course, as I said, my name is Blair Nightingale. If you are joining me here tonight live, you've always got that comment box. You can drop in there on Facebook or YouTube. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what caused you to join us here online tonight. Cheryl says hello from Connecticut, and hello to you too, Cheryl, all the way out there. See, out in Connecticut, man, we got people from all over the place. Tradeway's got thousands of students, actually tens of thousands from all over the country. So glad to have you here, Cheryl. If you've never been with us before, I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead, like I said, drop a hello in there. If we're going along tonight and we have any questions that you want to ask, I was telling a group of boot camp students, Tradeway has a boot camp happening right now that ultimately is really going to be a Monday through Thursday thing, but we are running them through a program, and I'm saying to them, hey guys, if you had the opportunity to ask questions about your trading as you're spending this time, it would be a supercharger, if I could put it that way, for you to ask questions if you have any, right? It's obviously not mandatory, but why not ask questions as we go along? Because it can help you out, all right? Otherwise, I'm just going to assume that somehow, by the grace of God, I am doing such a fantastic job that you guys don't have any questions whatsoever, and you are ready to hit the markets tomorrow morning, okay? That's what I'm going to assume. If you need some help with that, hey, you're in the right place. So I mentioned that we're going to go to a piece of our stock trading system. Now remember, Tradeway, we don't just guess when we go to the markets. We don't guess, gamble, or go for it, I always say. We don't go out there and read tons of financial news and figure out what product this company is going to release in 9 months. And I heard that oil is going to go down and lumber prices are going to change and all that kind of stuff. That's not how we trade, all right? That's not how we trade. Could some of that information be potentially helpful? It could, but that's not our primary discussion around Tradeway, which is probably good news to a lot of you guys, because honestly, that may not be something you're familiar with. That sounds like a lot of work. Sounds like something maybe you don't know how to do anyway. So how is this going to work? Well, we teach you a step-by-step system. We teach you a system, how to make sense of the markets. It's not so hard to do. It's really not. Tradeway's mission is breaking down the confusing world of finance and finding a good trade versus a bad trade. It's actually not so hard to do once you know the system. Think of how many things in your life, somebody might say, well, that's not so hard to do, but it's only not hard because now you know how to do it, right? It was hard when you had to figure it out on your own. That's what was so hard. Sometimes it's not so hard performing a function. It's figuring out what you're even supposed to perform. And when you want to perform in the markets, you just got to know what to do. We like to say, you just got to know some stuff. You just got to know some stuff. So we want to help you know some stuff. Some of that stuff today is what we call back to school basics. We're in that time of the year, back to school basics. And we're going to look at market tone, right? If you're a note taker, that's what you want to write down tonight. That's what we call it, market tone. What the heck is market tone? Well, it's the tone of the market. Now, I know that's shocking to a lot of you the tone of the market. Well, thank you for that, Blair. But that is ultimately what we're going to look at, right? Here at Tradeway, we have what's called a three-legged trading table. What happens to a table when it has three legs and you take one of those legs off, right? Doesn't take a lot of imagination. It's going to fall over, right? If we want it to be able to hold anything, we've got to have all three legs. At Tradeway, we teach three legs of the trading table. One of these legs is market tone, right? One of the legs is market tone. We got to have all three. But one of them is market tone. So what is market tone? Well, yes. Okay, I'm being a little smart. The definition would be it's the tone of the market. But let's go a little bit deeper than that, shall we? Okay, because I'm going to give you a preview into market tone, and I want to obviously take you further than that. So market tone, knowing that that's one thing, is one thing. But let's dive into this a little bit, all right? Let's just say this. What are the basics of market tone? Well, let's ask ourselves this question. Is the market positive or is it negative today? That's a good question to ask. Is the market positive or negative today? Okay. Is the market better for buying or selling? Now, I don't necessarily expect you to know how to answer that question yet, but that is ultimately what we're getting at. Because if we're going to go out and buy stocks, I want to know that I'm buying into momentum. Because if the overall tone across the market is negative, then it's almost like I'm swimming against the current, right? I'm buying a stock for a stock trade, right? We're not talking long-term investing, but I'm doing a stock trade and I'm swimming against the current. Now I can make some distance, depends on how strong the current is and how good of a swimmer I am. If your stock is a real good swimmer, right? It's very strong and the current's not too strong against you, then yeah, you could potentially do okay, even if the market's going against you. But wouldn't it be so much nicer if your stock was strong and you were swimming with the current? Learning market tone is learning how to swim with the current. So what we want to do at Tradeway is we want to help you understand, first of all, in the market, there is a current. And sometimes that current is going upstream and sometimes it's going downstream. And we want to help sync your trades with the market. Now, obviously, when it comes to stock prices, they're going up in price, they're going down. And when we're buying stocks, we want the stock to go up, right? That's obvious. We want the stock to go up. We want to buy low and we want to sell high. So I want to buy a stock when the overall market is performing well, okay? When there's a lot of buying sentiment. Remember I said the two questions, is it positive or negative? And more specifically, is it good for buying or selling? Or is it currently being bought? Or is it currently being sold? Is it up or is it down? Okay, now we need to take a few steps further than that. We're just peeking in the door right now. But those are the right places to start. Am I going to go upstream or downstream? Well, Blair, I don't really know how to measure whether or not it's going up or down. Okay, we haven't got there yet, but you're asking the right question. Okay, this is a question that a lot of people don't even ask. They just go out and buy the stock. They find a stock and they buy it. Now, let's assume that you've got somewhat of a system in place, okay? And you're going out there and you're looking for good patterns, good stock trading patterns. You know, there are patterns in the market that help us find reliable, predictable, and repeatable price patterns, right? Once I know what it looks like, I can go and I can find them. In many cases, I can find them all over the place. I just have to know what to look for. I have to learn the patterns. And we have looked at some of these patterns previously on Market Monday. And I say this all the time, but remember, you can always go back on YouTube and you can watch older courses, older episodes on YouTube. And you can not recover, but cover anything that we have already looked at. Okay. So remember, you can do that. They're not cataloged on Facebook as far as I know, but you can head on over to our YouTube Tradeway page and you can watch them all there. That said, if you are trading with those patterns, okay, then you could go out, find a great pattern and buy it, but not sync it with the market tone. Not syncing the trade with the market tone, as I said, can get you into a spot where you're swimming against the tide. You're swimming against the current. And we want to help remove that for you. One of the things that we do in our Step 1 course, one of the things we do in our 30-day challenge, one of the things that we do even here on Market Monday, okay? I've done this before, where we're going to go and we're going to look at the market, and I'm going to help you understand what's the market tone right now, right? That is a daily activity between myself, other coaches here at Tradeway as well, and the students, okay? Where we're helping them understand what's the market tone today. And two things are happening at one time. One, we're telling them this is the market tone, positive, negative, upstream, downstream, but we're also helping them figure it out on their own. Over time, they learn to do this on their own, but it's a very important skill, okay? So day to day, week to week, we want to help you know what's the market tone so you can keep on syncing your trades with the momentum of the market. There's a saying that says rising tides tends to raise all boats. Rising tides tends to raise all boats. That's the idea we're looking for here. So we want to go ahead and get in when we start to see the waters rise. But if we're going to get specific about this, okay, specifically, well, wait a second. When you say market tone, what do you mean by market, right? What I'm saying about tone is positive or negative, buying or selling, right? But what do you mean market? Can we define that a little bit better? What do you mean by the market? Well, what we mean here at Tradeway, what we refer to as the market, is twofold, okay? Two pieces. This is really the preview of market tone right here. It's two pieces. It's the S&P 500 chart, okay? We've looked at stock charts here on Market Monday many times, and we will again in the future so that you guys can see it on the screen, get familiar with it. But what we are going to do is go to the S&P 500 chart. Okay, that is a big part of how we measure market tone. The other part of how we measure market tone is the news. Okay, now if you followed us on this channel at all, you know we have a program on Thursdays called Stock Talk Thursday. Stock Talk Thursday, what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go over what's one thing that we can pay attention to that's really hot in the market right now. What's something that's not? And then what's that main news item? Well, what do you mean main news item? Aren't there a lot of news items around the market? There are. There are so many news items around the market. In fact, there are so many, it's nearly impossible to follow. Some say left, some say right, some say up, some say down. You don't know who owns what. It's confusing. So what we do here at Tradeway is we help break that down, right? We help break that down and give you just one main news item, okay? One main news item, and you don't even need to understand everything about that news item, right? We just help you know what it is so you can ignore everything else and know that Wall Street, right, is focused on primarily that one news item. I'm going to give you what that news item is tonight, okay? I'm going to tell you before we're done what that news item is right now, something you need to watch for tomorrow because it's going to matter. It's going to affect the market in some way tomorrow. And that is how we do market tone. So half of it is the S&P 500 chart. I would say even a little bit more than half. The other half of it is what's going on in the news. And when we learn to combine those, okay, then it answers our question, is it primarily positive or negative out there right now? Okay, because once I learn how to put the S&P 500 into a pattern, I can start making buying and selling decisions on the S&P 500. And when I combine that with one main news item, is that news item positive or is it negative? Does it bring clarity or does it bring confusion? Do I need to wait for something or is the information already out? That's what I need to know. That's what I need to know. But once I have those pieces in place, which is a bit of a skill set, right? I said we teach a system. We teach a system. And the system is something that we're going to take you through step by step by step. Now, some of you guys out there already, you've already learned it, right? You've already been through one of our courses, challenges, step 1. You might be in one of our memberships already. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to learn more about this before we finish up today. But wherever you're at, we take you through a process of learning a step-by-step system, okay? That helps you know, what do I do? And when we're looking at market tone, I would say even this is one of the things that we help our students with the most. But it is so helpful to be confident that you know how to go out, take just a few minutes looking at the market and go, I know what the market tone is. Now, let me say this. That does not mean that I or you will have some prophetic sense of what the market is going to do. Market tone is not a crystal ball, right? We're not predicting the future. That's not what market tone attempts to do. But market tone does two very important things. It doesn't do that, but it does two very important things. I'm going to tell you what those two things are right now, okay? The first thing is it helps us notice how much risk am I taking here, right? If I had some idea of whether or not I was going to be going against the current or not, that would be higher risk for me, okay? That would be higher risk. So I might be able to adjust my trading activity based on the amount of risk, okay? I could still potentially be profitable, but I might do some things to protect my money. Learning market tone can help you protect your money. Who out there doesn't want to do that? Protecting your money, right? So what I want to help you do through market tone is just that. That's number one, okay? Knowing whether or not I'm moving against the current. And if I am, I'm going to adjust for that, okay? The second thing that I get to know through market tone, not just how much risk am I going to take, okay? But ultimately, I want to know that I am syncing my trade with that momentum. I'm not just looking at the risk of it going against me, but I can sync it when I have the most momentum. So I'm not just protecting money on one side, but on the other side, I'm actually supercharging it, right? That's the idea. Now you might say supercharging it, is that really the way that they technically say it on Wall Street? Well, no, it's not. But if I can get with the current, and I can restrict my activity in the market to have that, you say, Blair, can I really do that? Well, remember, we're not gonna crystal ball, right? But we can look at what's a higher probability. So I don't want to go against the market, but I can identify when there is a higher probability. This is not opinion, okay? This is math. A higher probability that the market is going to go up. Why? Because I've learned to see what it's done in the past, and I can see if it's in a pattern or not, okay? There's no guarantees that it's going to go up, right? We never have that guarantee, but I definitely learned to work with probabilities, and that is 100% something we want on our side when we are trading stocks, all right? Remember, as we're going along here, we're going pretty steady tonight. I'm feeling good about this pace. Just go ahead and drop in any questions you might have about market tone or anything else regarding stocks. This is Market Monday, so if it falls under market, go ahead. It's ready to go for Monday night. You can pop it right there in the comments. I know some folks have joined us since we started, so hello to you. If you want to drop a comment there, say hi to me. Go ahead. You can do that. Everybody else here would love to hear from you as well. And then, as I mentioned, any questions you might have. So wait a second. Let's back this up for a minute. We're talking 3 legs of the trading table, okay? One of those legs has got to be there, market tone. Market tone. It's a huge part of our system. Rising tides tend to raise all boats. We want to go with the current, not against it. If I can learn to do that, a couple of key advantages are I can keep myself from swimming against a strong current. I don't want to do that. And then on the other end, I can sync it with that momentum. I can go into a higher probability environment. That helps me a lot. And once I start syncing it with the other two legs of the trading table, which is something we go into extensively in our challenges, in our step one course, you go right to tradeway.com, right there on the main page. You can join up. Step one, start your journey. It's inexpensive. We have refined this course down to an art and a science to help you understand this system. You'll know more after 2 days about the stock market than you thought you were ever going to know in your whole life. Now, if you're already experienced in the stock market, then you can come and you can hear from our experts, help you dial in what you're doing. If good isn't good enough, then let's get better, right? If we can do better, is good enough? So that's what we want to do. We want to dive in there and learn as much as we possibly can. Okay, so now I mentioned before the end, right? I want to tell you straight up, Teresa, I see you there, Teresa. Hello to you too. We want to tell you what is that main news item tomorrow. We've got chart on one side, market tone. The chart, the S&P 500 chart. We look at the S&P 500 because it's a nice broad spectrum, right? It gives us a great broad overview of the economy, right? Of the stock market. It's not just tech stocks. It's not just industrial stocks. It's a nice, it's an index, but it's a nice gauge of what's happening across the board. Teresa says, watching the S&P, which is what I was just talking about, it looked like we may have had a bounce today, okay? But today's candle wasn't as clear as the previous bounce candles at support, such as 819, 720, and some past dates. So Teresa is looking at the S&P 500 and is saying, okay, I see a pattern there, and I'm thinking maybe it bounced at support. We've talked about support and resistance here on Market Monday before. And even using some terminology there that no doubt you learned in the program. Now, it really depends on where the lines, Teresa, are drawn for this pattern, okay? Now, this is part of having access to the courses. So when you're in there, Teresa, you can go ahead and log onto your community page, and you'll see some of the different places where we've actually put lines on the patterns. It does kind of look like a doji, which is that candlestick formation. It's not a perfect doji by any means, but there was certainly some indecision today, okay? Did we want to drop the market? Did we want to bring it up? I mentioned in my market tone analysis this morning that I think this one news item I'm going to tell you about was likely to cause some indecision today. Remember, when we have a doji candlestick, that means indecision. It didn't actually go up, didn't actually go down. It moved up part of the day, it moved down part of the day, but it didn't stay there. It closed relatively close to the same spot it opened. And that just tells us that traders don't have conviction on which way they want the stock to go, right? They don't have conviction on which way they want the stock to go, so they basically just call a draw. The bears and the bulls, at the end of the day, they just call a draw. And that tells us something. It tells us that one side doesn't have more conviction than the other. They're not willing to take more risk. The bears aren't willing to take the risk of getting out completely, and the bulls aren't ready to take the risk of putting in more money to drive the prices up just yet, right? So what are they waiting for? Well, I think this is part of the reason. Okay, this is part of the reason. We are waiting for inflation numbers tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Okay, 8:30 a.m. We're going to see inflation numbers. If you remember, we've talked pretty extensively on here about inflation, the Fed, interest rates. Remember, we can always go back to those older episodes, but there's a bit of a domino effect here, okay? And this is why I want to be a helpful hand to you to know what news items should I be watching for, because the more I've traded, the more I've been around the markets, the more I see they typically tend to focus on one main news item. They really do. Sometimes it's more, but it's really one. And right now, there is kind of a little bit of a confusing, like, okay, there's COVID, there's Delta variant, there's political news. They're expecting September to be a worse month for stocks. No doubt somebody or many of us out there have heard that said, but we're kind of like, well, why does it have to this month just because it did last year or the year before? There's a mix of things, so it gets confusing. The thing they care about the most right now, interest rates, okay? Interest rates, and more immediately, I'm gonna say the technical term, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which is really how we measure inflation. We measure inflation. They want to know the inflation numbers. Now, remember I said earlier, you don't even need to understand everything about these news items. You say, I don't think I know much about CPI or whatever it is you just said. No, you just need to know that in the morning, I'm going to get an alert on my phone from the CNBC app, okay, that tells me how the market's starting to respond to the news on inflation. Is it up? Is it down? Because whatever happens with inflation is going to influence Wall Street's perspective on what the Fed is going to do next. Okay? What's the Fed going to do next? And that has the potential to move the market. So today, I don't think they wanted to do a whole lot. There wasn't much for buying pressure today, right? It didn't recover. But if they don't like these numbers in the morning, very likely we see more downside in the market. If they do, then after 5-6 days of falling prices, right, last week and today, we could see a nice solid bounce in the S&P, right? So I told our students today, based on market tone, today, not a great day. Not a great day to trade. Why? Well, number one, it's falling. The old saying, don't try to catch a falling knife. Wait for it to hit the floor. And then when it stops, reach down and pick it up, right? So we can use that for trading as well, can't we? So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is it's just too indecisive. It's too indecisive. We don't know what they want to do. Now, we didn't have a doji at the beginning of the day. I have the benefit of hindsight for the doji, but which, by the way, for everybody, the doji candlestick looks like a cross. It just says indecision, right? The buyers didn't win. The sellers didn't win. The price stayed the same, right in the middle. Just imagine a little cross. Okay? Waiting for the news tomorrow, right, meant that I don't need to trade today. I don't need to trade today. Because they're probably waiting for it anyway. And in the end, that's what we found they were. They were waiting for it. So let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's let them play their cards. And then we can make better buying and selling decisions. Harder to say than it sounds. Right? And that's what we get to do. So how beneficial would it be for you if you just knew market time? Not a crystal ball, right? But you knew market tone and you knew how to do market tone. Because at Tradeway, we don't just send you a newsletter and say, here's the market tone. We teach you what it is and how to know what it is so that you can do it too. Take some time, but we want you to get there, right? Every Tradeway program, we want you to graduate. We want you to outgrow. If we're not doing that, if none of our students get there, we're not doing a good job. So we're not just going to tell you what it is, but why, right? And that helps you in a very practical way. Got to have 3 legs. Market tone is one of those legs. Today, I'd say probably would have been swimming against the current there. Okay? And taking some extra risk because tomorrow could really go either way. Now, it's always true, and I'm going to close with this, that the market could go either way. But I would say there is a heightened risk right now of a bigger move one way or the other. Why not wait until those cards are on the table before making a buying decision on stocks? Because remember, with stocks, the stock has to move in your direction for you and me to make money, right? That's what has to happen. You say, well, isn't that just an obvious statement, Blair? Well, not so much. You know why? Because if you learn how to trade options, then you can do up, down, and sideways. You could make potential money when the stock moves up, when it moves down, or it even goes sideways, right? That's what we teach in our program. Again, all of this stuff is right in front of us. We just got to learn how to do some stuff. Just got to learn how to do some stuff. Now, if you're interested in learning how to do some stuff, I'm popping in a link right now. Tradeway, YouTube, Facebook world, I just posted it for you. It's in the comments there. That's our 30-day challenge, man. If you haven't been through the 30-day challenge, if you haven't learned our foundational stock trading course, you ought to go ahead, jump in onto that, okay? If you've done that already, okay, then it's time for you to jump up into a membership. We have inexpensive memberships. We're going to teach you market tone. We're going to give you mentorship, okay? You can find this right on the website, okay? If you want to email me, support@tradeway.com, you can always write to me, Market Monday, Blair Nightingale. Any questions you might have, you're interested in learning something that I talked about, you would like to have a conversation with me, go ahead, email us in support@tradeway.com, Market Monday, and I will be notified, right? That way you and I can connect. Would be happy to do that. I want to see you get upgraded in your trading, and Market Tone is going to help you do that. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks so much for being on with me again. Monday night, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure on my end. I know that life is busy and you guys take the time to spend some time with me here tonight. I know not everybody is on live. So if you're joining by the recording, hello to you as well. I am thankful that you came. We are back tomorrow. Every day we've got programming here on YouTube, Facebook, and I will be back, of course, 4:30 Central Time on Thursday with Stock Talk, Hot, Not, and News, so that you know at the end of the week, what is it I should be paying attention to? What is it I should be staying away from? What's the news item now, Blair? You told us on Monday, but it's not Monday anymore. It's Thursday. Weekend's coming. So what do I need to know? Pretty helpful to jump on and do that. 4:30 Pacific, or excuse me, 4:30 Central. I used to be Pacific time. Not anymore. 4:30 is the time for Stock Talk Thursday. Mario says, thank you, Blair. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, everybody else out there. Support@tradeway.com if you need anything else, and you have yourselves a good night. Appreciate you, and good night.